Welcome to this month's CCI video update, exploring the variety of work that schools and school districts around Indiana are completing through the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative grant from the Lilly Endowment. Today, we're very pleased that our guest is Tara Bishop, the superintendent from Perry Central Community Schools. Thanks for being with us, Tara, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to begin with, can you just tell us how the implementation of your comprehensive counseling model is progressing and maybe share some areas of growth you've experienced over the past few years as a CCI school?
Sure, of course. So we're so pleased to have been able to do this work in partnership with the Lilly Endowment, and it has really amplified the work and kind of lifted. We had some really good pieces in place, but it's definitely lifted that and taken it to a new level. So our goal was to align our programs with the ASCA national model. And we had a really strong, our college and career counseling at the middle and high school was really, really strong when we started. So we had to work to really take that model and put it in place in the elementary side. So that was our sort of our college and career component that we were most concerned with. And then on a larger scale, we wanted to really work on the social emotional side of those pieces and be more intentional about what we were doing. So probably some of the work that we're the most proud of is that social emotional learning piece. So since we began our work with the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative, we now have a K through 10 scaffolded social emotional learning curriculum that we have developed. We've developed it locally. We use some pieces of Second Step. We use lots of the resources on the Department of Education's cell competencies. We pulled in the work of Dr. Lori Destetels from Butler University. We've used a lot of Jim Sporleader's work with the trauma-informed school model. And then we're also surveying our students with Panorama. So it's a social emotional learning screener. So we can get a sense of where their strengths are and where their areas, where the areas are that they need support. And using that data has probably also been a really big piece of what we've ramped up since we began the initiative. We tended to go with gut feelings about what needed to be done. And now we are looking at data to make sure that what we're thinking is right really bears out in the numbers. So so the SEL curriculum, we laugh because it's so different every year. It just has to grow and evolve with what's happening with kids and frankly what's happening in the world. Because when we began with CCI, we didn't know we would have a global pandemic to deal with too. So that really changed our some of our work as well. But that social emotional learning piece, K through 10, and then we have pieces in the 11th and 12th grade too. They're done a little bit differently at that level. So we really focus kind of on that K through 10 age group, and it's been really positive.
That's wonderful. Do you have any examples of how your students are responding to that?
Sure. So actually our elementary principal, Jennifer Mitchell, she just defended her dissertation this week and earned her doctorate. And the subject of her dissertation was social emotional learning programming in a rural elementary school setting. And so she really looked at that data and did tests of statistical analysis on it to see if we could see a noticeable change in students self-reporting social emotional learning competencies on Panorama and found some statistical significance after 2 years of self-programming. So that was really, we could see it bearing out in the data. Anecdotally, there are just really cool stories about kids who can talk to you about their brain, and I'm in my downstairs brain right now and I need to go to the calming area and reset and regulate and then come back in to meet with my school family. So every one of our elementary classrooms has a family meeting every day, and they do a little social emotional learning, maybe a lesson, but they also just give their kids time to come together and connect and unite as a school family, as a classroom family. And so many good things have grown, from that work as well. When we're implementing the conscious discipline framework is what we worked with that a lot in our elementary. And so another really awesome thing, we've just learned so much about the human brain and the impact of trauma. And I'm sure this will resonate with other school people who might watch this, just that the number of children who come to us having lived through pretty intense trauma seems to increase every year. And so we've really had to pretty dramatically alter our strategies and learn how to help them leave the mantle of that, at the door and come in and be engaged in learning. So we did this thing called Babydoll circle time. and it's a component of conscious discipline. But essentially, in our preschool and kindergarten classrooms, the children hold baby dolls and they rock them and they talk to them and they do for them all the things that we need when we're babies. And some of them didn't get when they were babies. And so it's kind of a way to lay down those neural pathways in the brain about what it feels like to be safe and how you create that safety for another person and rebuild some of those pieces that some children did not have in their infancy and their formative years. So that has been a really, really neat activity, and the teachers have embraced it and the children have really embraced it. So we laugh, it's baby doll circle time, but it makes such a difference in learning ultimately because it impacts the brain.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Look at the data down the road and see as they're older how that had an impact on them.
Yes.
That is fascinating. That is fascinating. You talked a little bit about some of the partners you have in this. Were there particular community partners or people that you collaborated with that impacted how this has been going for you in the last couple of years?
Yes, we were really fortunate to be able to add some staff with our funding and with some other funding sources that we've been able to get our hands around in the last few years. And so we had a social emotional learning specialist for 2 years who really helped us write that curriculum and get it launched and taught us how to do it. And so we kind of built some sustainability in with that piece because now we own it and we're moving it forward. But definitely the conscious discipline piece with Becky Bailey and Dr. Desautel's work. And then we are really, we're a Project Aware school as well. So Project Aware is a federal grant program that has, funneled through the Indiana State Department of Education. And we've been a model school rural district for that initiative for the past 4 years. We're in our 4th year. And so through that, we've been able to really connect with, it used to be Christy Berger from DOE and Jess Yoder and those people who have connected us with such great professional development as well. So that's been really strong. And then locally, we have a community mental health agency that we've worked with for years. And so that partnership has strengthened. At the same time that partnership has strengthened, though, so has the demand on the very limited personnel that they have. So one of our big challenges here, I know most schools in Indiana are rural. We are extra rural. I don't know how to say it. So we're an hour from any kind of city, and there are no social service agencies in our district boundaries. There's no gathering place other than the school. Some of our kids get on the school bus at 6 o'clock in the morning and get to school at 7:45. So geographic isolation is a thing here, and having access to services is a big thing. And so also attracting people who have the kind of credentials in mental health that you need to be a therapist in a community mental health agency. It's very difficult to get and retain people in those positions in our community. And so that's been a big challenge. So we've got a strong relationship with them, but we are still really in dire need of additional mental health support services in the community. So when we need to refer out, a family might wait 6 months for services. And so for that reason, we've brought a lot of things in-house. So we have a licensed clinical social worker on staff. We have an LSW on staff. We have another person who has her LSW and is working on her LCSW. So just because if we can't access what we need in the community, then we just have to figure it out, within our walls. So while we have a great relationship with It's Life Springs and it is very positive, they can't meet the need on their own either. So this has been kind of really a cool thing in our community. We've got a lot of people who are really motivated around this work right now. Other agencies, so even county government and our economic development, our EDC, the Chamber of Commerce. We do have a hospital in our community. They just haven't ever really done anything with behavioral health. So they're coming on board and we're saying, what can we do as a community to attract people to the community to get more providers here so we can provide better outcomes for our folks. So we formed what is called the Perry County Mental Health Coalition, and we're working on it. We've written some grants. We're getting ready to write an ARP grant. And our county actually allocated $500,000 of its ARP money specifically for mental health. So that was also really, really positive.
That's excellent. So overall, your community is very supportive of social emotional learning and the mental health concept. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Great. That's half the battle right there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to talk about, and as far as how you used your um, funding and how you used your ability to use these things to grow in your corporation?
Um, I would just say that probably 5 years ago or 7 years ago, when we really started to dig into this work pretty intensively, there was a lot of feeling among staff, I think in particular, that I'm not a social worker. You know, I went into school to be a teacher, and I don't feel equipped to handle these issues or serve this need. And so over time, we've been able to help people be equipped to manage the day-to-day things that they can manage. You know what I mean? And to feel empowered to know how to connect children to resources that they need if the teacher cannot provide that for the children. And that has taken a lot of time. Teaching is it's just a really demanding job that gets more complicated all the time. And so another big piece for us has been, how do we support our educators? So we have a really neat room. You can go sit in a massage chair and have chocolate. But at the end of the day, that's kind of a quick fix. So another thing that we did was allocate some funds to pay for counseling services for our staff. And so we have one counselor who actually comes to school, and they can use planning time to go see that counselor, or we'll even cover a class so that they can go see that counselor. But it can also be completely anonymous. It is completely anonymous either way. Only if they reach out to us to ask for help would we know. But just to build those supports in for educators, so that we all recognize that, no, we may not be social workers, but we all have the capacity to help in small ways, and then connect kids to services that can meet the need that's presented. And that we also have to take care of one another and take care of ourselves.
Right.
That doesn't make us crazy or bad, but that it's a normal part of life. And so that's been really important work for us here. I'm really proud of that piece. And I think we've had a lot of people take stock of maybe their own emotional health and realize that it's okay to work on me. And I cannot be for someone else what I am not for myself. And so that's been really powerful for us.
That's awesome. You should be very proud of that. That sounds like great work. Sounds like great work. Well, how about any sort of resources or books or websites or anything that you have come across in this work that you would share with other counselors, other school corporations, as they're looking to maybe increase their own ability in social emotional area?
Sure. One of our principals is just a reader, and he actually brought us a book called Lost at School by Ross Green. And we started with that book. And it is a great book to start with, because there's a story that carries throughout the whole book, and you follow this child, and it's just really powerful. I think stories they stay with us longer sometimes than other things. So that we started with that. We read Fostering Resilient Learners. We read the Jim Sporleader's book called I think it's just called Trauma Informed Schools. It looks more like a textbook than anything else. It's not very pretty, but it is great. It's really full of very practical kinds of things. And then Their Eyes Are Always Watching. I think Our Eyes Are Never Tired, the Desautel's book that we read and really dug into all of, and then Conscious Discipline and the Conscious Discipline Framework, the book, and then all of her videos. So we actually subscribed to the online videos. So during COVID, when we were shut down but we were still paying people to work, we provided a lot of professional development, and that was awesome to be able to plug them into those videos and give them some time to digest that work. So that was really good stuff. And then we're just always finding more things and feeding people little articles. If you follow Desautel's and those folks on their social media, then they're forever feeding you more things as well. So those would probably be the biggest resources that we've found value in.
I'm going to highly recommend her newer book that is Connections Over Compliance. It's really good.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's very good. Very good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you would like to talk about?
I think we've probably hit it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We'd like to thank you for joining us, and thanks to our viewers for watching this monthly CCI video update.
Thank you for having me.